All right, we're here with Mike Williams, the general manager of Hood Football. Mike, thanks for so much for being on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, I guess first off, not everybody knows, if you're a spring football person or football person, you know Hub Football. I've known Hub Football for a while. Why don't you tell fans what Hub Football is?
Well, it's been in existence for about 2 years, and it was started by Don Yee, who's a super agent in the NFL for years and years, going all the way back to the 80s. And he started a couple years ago as a platform for free agents to give them opportunities to showcase their skills. So it's for the guy who is a little bit under the radar. The phone's not ringing. They feel like they're in good shape and they still have a chance. And it's just an opportunity for them to relaunch their careers and get some exposure.
And you guys had a lot of people, players that have played in Hub that appeared in the CFL later or NFL later. So how did you get involved with Hub Football?
It was a mutual friend between Don and me, and he referred me. And so we just started talking one day. He said, "Hey, how about if I bring you on board?" Um, and I had 18 years of NFL experience as a scout, um, mostly pro scouting, and just he was looking for somebody that could connect to the NFL, had some connections and scouting background, and just decided to give it a go. And it's been great. I feel real good about giving players opportunities and chances to prolong their careers.
Mhm. So one of the questions I always ask my guests is give us your superhero origin story. So how did you get from high school kid to a scout in the NFL?
Oh well, shoot, I played high school football at Mater Dei, um, played at Santa Clara University. Met a guy through Santa Clara University named Pat McPherson, who coaches the tight ends at the Seahawks right now. His father coached with Bill Walsh, uh, got 5 Super Bowl rings. He was a defensive coach with um, actually Pete Carroll, um, and a lot of other great coaches that went through there. He had sort of semi-retired and was moving over to the personnel side, and he was looking for somebody to help him. And so through that connection, I got started as I had been coaching a little bit in college, junior college, coached at Southern Utah, coached in high school. Um, and then I got connected with Bill McPherson, who was moving over to the personnel side. Um, and, sort of trying to get away from coaching a little bit to scale it back, but still wanted to be involved in the organization. He brought me in, and I was a volunteer for a year, and then I got on full time and spent 18 years with the 49ers and the Rams in the league. And
Wow.
yeah, that's my
That's-
background.
So how did you guys get involved with the USFL? Because I mean, it was always like we're going to have XFL, USFL, CFL scouts, but now there's kind of this partnership with the USFL. How did that all come about?
Well, we had been reaching out to the CFL and the XFL, and knew that the USFL didn't really have a platform, and we felt like we had something in place that we did very well. We're really efficient with our ops guys, and Tom Goodhine's our ops guy, um, and Jamie, the CEO. They do a great job of setting the table, and we bring in some really quality coaches, guys with a lot of NFL experience. Uh, Knew that we put on a very good event, from the feedback that we got from agents and players alike. We our events are not combine style; they're more OTA style, so it looks a lot more like a practice. So players feel like they're getting a chance to show their football skills. We figure all the testing has been done. That's not going to change much. A new 40 times not going to do much for them. You know, um, but a chance to demonstrate more football oriented skills and traits.
So how does this now? Because before is this just now an exclusive USFL scouts going to be there, or still XFL scouts and CFL scouts there as well?
No, we're right now we're exclusive to the USFL. To finish answering your question, we reached out to them. They didn't really have a platform. They more bounced around to other people's events to look for players. Um, we do, we vet the players, so not everybody can come. It's invite only. Um, and this has been in place for a while, so a lot of the players know, that it's a quality deal. So we felt we had something to offer the USFL. We reached out to all the leagues, and invited them, and um, basically told the USFL or XFL we'd like to partner with one or the other of you. So whoever wants in the USFL stepped up, and um, it's a recent partnership, but we feel like it's going to be a good one going forward. Both ways.
So take me through the process of like a player gets invited and then they show up at this event, and what you just take them through drills. It's just a day long event. This isn't something that's a couple days in a row or anything like that.
No, it's just a single event, and it's up to 2 hours, for each position group. They come in. Um, we do minimal testing. We might do a 40 for somebody that needs it, but they basically get warmed up. They go through individuals. We do one-on-ones. Depending on our numbers, we do some form of skelly, whether it's inside skelly or outside skelly or both. 7-on-7 stuff. Um, and it's competition based, so you're not competing against a watch or a distance.
Mm.
You're competing against somebody across from you, So, um, and it gets pretty competitive, and the one of the great things about it is, we get to talk to the players. I talk to them on the phone beforehand, but we get to talk to the players at the event, and watch them perform and watch them compete, see how they handle themselves. Um, and you get a pretty good feel, when you get that hands-on experience with the player about what he has to offer.
And so how do you typically players, how do they get invited to the camp? Is their agents reach
Well,
out
they
to you? Do they
they
sign up?
register. Yeah, they register. They upload their tape. They go to hubfootball.com and register. And now we feel like it's going to be they're going to have more direct access to the USFL with this partnership. Um, and so they register. I vet the players with a couple other guys, give our opinions about whether we think they are professional football material, um, and send them an invite. And we have anywhere between 30 and 70 players per event.
Mhm.
And so that's what we put on. And probably, I don't know the total number. It's probably close to 20 events over
That
the
was my next
past two and a
question.
half years. Yeah. Maybe one every month or month and a half, that when it was busiest. Um, we have an event coming up this weekend in San Diego on the 13th of November. Um, we're also um, we're also pivoting to a college draft eligible event.
Okay.
Um, so we're requesting permission from the league to service the NFL teams by putting on a college showcase, and it would be similar to all other all-star events, but more condensed. So uh, we're shooting for like a Monday through Thursday event in February that showcases players. It might be um, hopefully it will be a safer event. It's not the full week and it's not a full game. It'd be a condensed scrimmage on that third day,
Uh,
um, but still a chance to get in front of NFL scouts. And
and
it
USFL,
would,
would USFL guys be there as well?
yes, yeah, definitely, yeah, because what we're thinking, what we have in mind is draft eligible, like I said, but all the way and typically non-combine guys, because our date would be leading up to the combine. So, we may get some combine guys, but we'd be going all the way down FCS, D2, D3, open to everybody that has NFL trades. And same thing, we'd be vetting the roster. Um, It'd be a smaller roster, so maybe a little bit easier for the um, typical NFL scout to come through and target guys, because it's just a smaller group of players or smaller pool of players, so they can zero in on guys.
And then, so now that you have this partnership with the USFL, are you looking to do specific events as they kind of gear up towards their season? Adding more
Yeah.
events than typically you would have before, or is it the same kind of cadence of every 2 months having some kind of event?
Um, yeah, I think this will be a big one this coming weekend. And we don't have anything set after this draft eligible event that we have in mind. Um, but we're also talking about a portal event. We've had portal players come in as a subset, um, and do the same thing with them. Um, and we are likely going to be doing that in late January, early February, possibly in conjunction with the East-West Shrine Game.
Okay, gotcha. And
With
so,
same thing, just a different pool of players, which is portal players. So
gotcha.
guys that go in the portal, they want to get exposure to different colleges and find a new home. We try to use our connections to get them placed, film the stuff, shoot it out to all the schools that request it. Pretty much everybody,
Mhm.
um, and try to find guys new homes that way. So we have several different products, and we're always thinking of new ways that we can service our clients. One of which is the USFL.
Gotcha. Now, you've been a scout for a long time. A hub football, you said, has been around for 2 years. Now, how has the football landscape changed now that you have, let's go XFL, USFL, fan control football? We've had the indoor football league. You have the European League of Football. I mean, Major League in football, whatever that thing happened and disappeared. That was a whole thing over the summer. But like, how has that landscape changed? I mean, having all these new leagues now, how has that changed over the years?
Well, I mean, you go back 5 years and there wasn't any of that except for
Yeah.
indoor. I mean, so there's a lot more opportunity. I think the 11-man thing is more appealing to a lot of these players. They feel like it's a lot more similar to the NFL. Yeah, I'm sure you saw that the USFL put, I think, over 70 guys into NFL camps
Mhm.
this year. So they see it as a stepping stone. Players do and agents do. So, um, the timing of the league is really good. Just more opportunities for players, which I think is great because we keep talking about how today's NFL is not set up for development of players. It's basically sink or swim. You either get invited to a camp, and there's not a lot of patience, for guys to
Mhm.
develop. And the coaches, the way the CBA is, they don't have time to develop players. They don't have hands-on experience in the off season with players like they used to. So hopefully the USFL, is going to provide that, that extra development. When I first got into the league, we had NFL Europe,
Mhm.
um, which is an opportunity for a lot of guys to develop. Um, but normally a lot of times the guys that will develop are guys that really haven't had a lot of football experience to begin with, you know, and their trajectory is on the way up because of their traits or general athleticism. Um, but it might be, one thing or another that slowed their development. But um, having a platform like the USFL is really good. Now it starts to look more like other professional sports like baseball and basketball, you know. Um, and, one of the things that, um, jumps out at me over the years, I've seen offensive linemen, you know, having languished on the practice squad for years, like sometimes 3 years, and then they all of a sudden make the jump, and then they're solid starters, in the league. It takes a while for some of those guys to ripen. They don't just come into the league and they're ready to play. And same thing with quarterbacks, a lot of times. I mean, I just think of like Cooper Rush, the job that he did stepping in for Dallas. He was a backup for years and never got any exposure. Gets in the game and everybody's shocked that his
Mhm.
level of play. Um, Probably something he could not have done in his rookie year, you know. Um, but a little bit different with the quarterbacks, they I think they do benefit more from sitting and watching. Um, and Not that the practice reps didn't help, but I think they help a lot more with like offensive linemen, those practice reps in terms of their development.
So as a former scout and working with Hub football, one of the knocks of the XFL, USFL, any of these leagues was that, hey, there is already a feeder system. It's college football. But
Mm-hmm.
basically you're saying like even with that, having that extra couple of years of experience playing in the USFL, or being in a practice squad, like you said, they don't come out ripe yet, and that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that it makes sense that everybody develops at different rates. So a lot of players, and sometimes more frequently at certain positions, you have a finished product coming out of college. Okay. But everybody's different. They all develop at different rates, so it could be physical maturity, it could be emotional maturity, mental maturity, whatever it is, they're all developing at different rates. So it doesn't make sense that you put a grade on a guy as he's coming out his draft eligible year, and then that grade sticks with him for the rest of his career, right? I mean, he's not the same guy 2 years after, post draft
Mhm.
as he was, and some guys are, you know, some guys, they continue to develop after their draft year, so you just, and there's a lot of guys out there that can play football, you
Yeah.
know, and
No,
some guys it clicks for them, when they're 24 years old instead of 22 years old.
yeah. Oh, I always tell people I was like, I'm a different person when I was 26 versus 22,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but what was the reaction to the kind of circuit of scouts and everything when the NFL was and Roger Goodell was talking about putting four teams in Europe? Did you hear him talk about that?
Oh, you're talking about for the actual NFL teams, not a
Yeah.
development. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, because really, this is kind of where places like the USFL, if the NFL is serious about putting four teams in Europe and having its own division, they
Hmm.
have to get the players from somewhere, and that's where the USFL and Hub Football comes into play. Did you guys, when
Yeah.
you heard about that, because that was a shock to me, what was your
Mm.
guys' reaction when you heard about Goodell talking about four teams in Europe?
I don't know. It seems like it's been a long time coming, and it's gradual. The interest in Europe is gradually increased, and just kind of waiting for that next foot to drop. Um, Especially in Germany. I think the culture for American football in Germany is strong. You know. And then, of course, they play in London every year, and I think that helps a little bit too. Um, but Yeah, it just seems like it's only a matter of time, and I think the USFL, being uh, a new startup league, and Hub supporting them, and there's just a lot of athletes over there too, and it's just they just don't know how to play football because it's not part of the culture, you
Mm.
know. but there's guys with plenty of traits, you know. Um, I think having that football culture growing up in your teens is important, for the development. Um, just being exposed to that. But I just think, I mean, I think it's only a matter of time
Hmm.
before, you know, the NFL really gets a strong foothold in Europe.
And so have you heard any other like USFL news that's coming down the pike, perhaps like a draft, or there's been rumblings that there might be another hub city? Have you kind of heard any kind of thing through the grapevine of what's going on with the USFL? Because they've been kind of quiet.
Hmm.
We haven't heard much before their
Well, I
season
mean,
gets back in.
yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, um, but I think, like last year they had everything was in Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think they're going to branch out of that, and I don't know what the timing is. They're gonna start to spread out a little bit to different cities. I know that with Hub we're talking about trying to move our events around. Not just San Diego and Southern California, but we tried to do one in Florida and it got blown out by the hurricane. But we're trying to bounce around a little bit too. Um, so uh, as far as like expansion of the USFL, I haven't heard anything about that. But I do think that they're going to start moving away from the centrally located Birmingham thing soon.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of, like of the USFL, so spring football, I mean, when you talk to people in the CFL, they kind of scoff because they're like, the CFL has been around for 100 years and Americans always try to do spring football. And then it doesn't work. I mean, the AAF and then the XFL, the USFL has now completed its first season. Do you think
Hmm.
spring football will work in the US?
Um, I think it can if you do it step by step, and it's the Fox Sports back in the USFL certainly helps, you know. And I think they've been uh, really, from what I understand, they've really recognized the mistakes that have been made in the past. It looks like to me, you know, post the first season, the assessment of how it went has been better than anything that's occurred in the last 10, 15 years. A lot of they've looked at it as a successful um, season or a successful launch. Um, and they sounds like they're making the right tweaks, that they need to make going into the second season. So um, there's some quality coaches in that league. Um, the thing that I keep hearing is from players is that you know the CFL has been around a long time, and that has to do with their fan base that's been in place up there. They have their own unique fan base.
Hmm.
Um, the USFL has that connection to the old USFL, with the logos and the team names. I think that helps a little bit with the familiarity, in terms of the fan. But the players, I think, for the most part, they would rather play in the US, you know. So they kind of see it as an equivalent to, CFL football in terms of level of play, but of course, rather play in the U.S. than go up to Canada.
Hmm. So I always get a lot of messages from players saying like, when's the next tryout for this league? Or I want to do this. Like, so what can you tell a player aside from putting their workout videos on Twitter and sending them to me? Because I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that. How
Mm-hmm.
does a player get noticed? Say like a Division II guy. What would you tell them as far as if, trying to make their way to a USFL roster and maybe to an NFL roster one day, but they're kind of not noticed? Like, how do they break through to get noticed?
I would say register on hubfootball.com, get in front of our coaches, because they might give you a tip that would help you going forward to become a better player, for one thing.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, you know, our guys are all very well connected, so if you show up and ball out, you're going to get, people willing to make phone calls for you because all of our guys are really well connected,
And then so
and
they
they got
upload
a
their
lot of
video.
experience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just you go to hubfootball.com and upload your video. Yeah, as much convincing video as you can put up there.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's is some exposure right there, but you won't know until we see you in person, and talk to you in person,
Hmm.
and our coaches, they know what it takes. They've been in the league. So,
All right.
um, and then sometimes it's you got to take baby steps first. Um, but I would say that, you know, once college is finished, you need to continue to develop, and you need to see yourself as um, a work in progress, and make big jumps because those, being a legitimate candidate for the USFL or the NFL, it's competitive out there.
Hmm.
So um, yeah, I would say get seen, and not just testing, like, like I said, I mean, our thing is, hey, come out and show your skills, not just your traits.
Hmm. Okay, well, I appreciate it. So Mike Williams, GM of Hub Football. I always send anytime I get those messages from players, I always tag Hub Football, and I'm always like, go to Hub Football. That's a great place to start. So I appreciate you, Mike, taking the time to come on the show and talk to us there. I know a lot of players will be listening and will take your advice.
All right, thanks for having me.